You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the April 11th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 6:03, and this is the regular meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. Ms. Collins, would you call the roll, please?
Of course. Mr. Jackson?
Present.
Mr. Klinder?
Here.
Ms. Stransky? Here. Ms. Vance? Here. Mr. Zimmer?
Here.
Attorney Steve Hill?
Here.
Thank you. Next item would be to approve the minutes from March 14th. I assume everyone has had a chance to review those. If there's no changes, I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve those minutes. A second.
We have a motion and a second.
This is a matter of clarification. The minutes, I believe, are in the form of a transcript,
Okay.
which is a verbatim court-reported list of everything that took place.
Okay. Thank you.
I call for the vote. Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Klinder?
I was not in attendance.
Yes. Ms. Stransky?
Yes.
Ms. Vance?
Yes.
And Mr. Zimmer?
Yes.
So goes your minutes. It's approved.
Thank you. So our first and only petition this evening is a continuation from last month, B-100-23. Where do we stand on that?
Did you come forward, Mr. Vigneri?
Yes.
Where do we stand?
So last week or last month when we spoke, we were going to be talking to an architect. We did talk to an architect, and we've contracted with him, but he wasn't able to get everything done as far as the drawing. So we'll request a continuance actually to next month for that. We did decide to leave the detached building. We'll leave that as residential after hearing from the community. So we'll leave that as residential, which will be a 2-bed, 1-bath apartment that should be ready fairly soon, as soon as gas and electric can get on it pretty much. And then it's probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of work that need to be done in the interior, and then paint the exterior to bring that up. And then in the meantime, we'll do work on the exterior, but we will leave that east or the detached building as residential.
Okay, thank you. So I guess then we just need to vote to continue this until next month. Is there a motion to do that, Mr. Ham?
Yes, I would just point out that because this is done at an open public meeting, that the petition will not be required to renotice or to republish notification. This notification from March will hold over if we hold this at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is May 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. located in this very room.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. So then is there a motion then to continue until next month?
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
can I ask the attorney a question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Hale, would it be out of line to ask the petitioner where we're going, or if he's met with the planning department and inspections? And when we left here a month ago, we had a pretty good idea of where we wanted to go, because if we're waiting on drawings and they come in and this isn't even close to what we were thinking, am I making sense?
So you want to make sure he's going in the right direction.
Yeah, because I mean, one, we showed up here tonight. This is the only reason we came was for this. Okay. And two, these people have took it out of their time to make sure that they're here tonight. I was just curious to see, are we going in the right direction? And
I think that the petitioner, if you wish to ask him questions, is free to answer them if he wishes.
I can answer
so
any questions.
my question is at the last meeting, we had went, if I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were at like 16 offices.
Mhm.
Now you're talking about the outside building is going to actually stay residential. I think that's fine. What about inside? Have you come down with a number, or have you got a number in mind that you're looking for the main structure?
So it looks like there'd be 10 inside, maybe 12 if it fits. If it fits within the footprint easily. I've talked with Sue. I had a meeting with the building commissioner last Thursday, I believe it was, it may have been Tuesday, talking through a few different things going on. So we have talked with her, and then also did talk architect Don Duncan. And so he has come on board to get that done. Just with the other projects that he wasn't able to complete everything. So we've got some as-builts in place, but as-builts don't get us here's the layout, here's what it'll look like.
And one of the big concerns when we were here last month was the parking.
Yes, so
You did mention that there was a lot that you were going to try to.
So that lot is owned by Indiana Bell, and we have reached out and made contact with them. And so we expect to have some sort of an arrangement, or with possibly one of the nearby parking lots as well. If that one doesn't happen, then we'll reach out to one of the other property owners who are nearby, who does have a parking lot that either is not being fully utilized or not utilized at all.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
Just to touch bases, the city did, me in reference, met with Mr. Vigneri, yesterday. And we did talk about it. I did also meet with, our building inspector. And we do have updated, based upon our conversations with, our department and our building inspector, we did have, updated, and we are only still stating, based upon her perspective, that there should be 5 units. And that's in our petition as well, but we won't review it unless we move forward. So if we decide to move forward with his petition, then we will review our updated recommendations.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
And based upon what you're saying with the meeting, you're looking at all of that as a whole with the codes and with the fire codes and the building codes and everything, how you came to that number, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And also the state of the structure itself, and it being its age, she took in consideration those different things. And that's just basically what she recommends. And we look into those different things.
And so did you discuss these recommendations with Mr. Vigneri?
I didn't get to see Mr. Vigneri until yesterday, and we just finalized this with her.
With Sue Downs?
Yes, with Sue.
So you're aware of what we're looking for?
Yes, so Sue and I had spoken last week about where things were headed, and then sounds like they had a conversation as well. So we didn't have a conversation with the 3 of us, but the 3 of us had a conversation.
All right, but it sounds like there's a discrepancy there between what you're saying you would like to see and what the planning department is saying they're going to allow.
Which is where?
in the house. You're talking about 10 to 12 offices.
So my understanding, and I can clarify it, and I mean, if I'm incorrect on it, then it'll just go away. But my understanding was that there would be 5 on each floor, so 3 on the one side, and then where the entrance is, that takes up kind of a like a foyer waiting area, and it would do that on the bottom floor and the top floor. So 5 on each floor, or if I have that correct, then the whole thing just kind of
Well,
dissolves.
I don't know.
Or if I have that incorrect, that kind of just goes away.
It's not stated whether it's per floor. It makes it sound like it's 5 total for the whole building.
Yeah, so just in our recommendation, the approved unit is limited to a total of 5 private business office for individual and or business entity, each of which may have no more than 2 staff on site at a time. These are our recommendations.
Mr. Zimmer, if I may.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that he is aware, at least at what the planning department's expectations are. Because, and I'm not pointing fingers in any way, shape, or form, but every time he goes and gets engineer drawings, architect drawings and stuff, I'm sure that's costing him money.
Right. Well, that's why we're
So,
trying to clarify
in other
what
words,
Sylvia
yeah,
has put. in the
Exactly. We
report.
need to make sure that
Right.
we're looking at the same page. So
Yeah, I clearly understand.
it's 5 for the total building.
Yes, it's been the same since our previous recommendation. Our recommendation never changed.
Okay.
This isn't new. This is stated previously. Mr. Hale, you like to touch bases? It's the same. There's no change.
Okay. All right.
So just so you know, that's where we're at. So I don't know how you are going to massage the numbers to get what you want, but also do what's acceptable to the city.
And Mr. Zimmer, I mean, understand whatever they say does not necessarily mean we're going to agree with all the way across the board. They may say 5 for the total building. We may say 9 for the total building. I mean, we have a say in this. It's just we look at the recommendations because they can turn around and figure out how many parking spots, how many, people are going to be coming and going and so on. So don't take it wrong that that's cut in stone yet. It's not.
Understood. And I also understand that that a lot of it swings on what actually can be done per fire code and for ADA accessibility and what actually reasonably fits in the space as well. So.
All right. That's all I had.
I have a question just to, I guess for my own understanding. He came to us for variance, right? Special use. So really, how do we have a say in any of that? We really just need to do the special use, and that goes to you guys in the building code. So I don't think we should argue that. I think we should that's something that you have to work out with him, the petitioner, and the building commissioner and that type of thing. Am I correct in that?
You are. Our purpose, our department's purpose is to determine whether this structure can be utilized as office space. Not how many office space. We can give recommendations, which we did. We gave our recommendation of what we felt would be sufficient in this structure based upon our building inspector and the knowledge that she has. However, it's going to move from here and go to a different phase. And during that phase, they will go more in depth into what this structure can and cannot be. But once it becomes office space, that doesn't mean that it can't go back to residential. It can go back. It just can't become anything else other than what it's permitted to be. Because this is not a permit by right.
May I address? Our zoning ordinance clearly allows the Board of Zoning Appeals to set conditions that are required to be met for their approval. The conditions obviously have to relate in a legal sense to the request. The request is for a use variance, which means that he's requesting to use it for something that isn't permitted. And to allow something that isn't permitted, you're free to set reasonable conditions that will make the requested use satisfy all the standards, that it won't have a deleterious effect on the neighborhood, and so forth. It would seem that the issues you've been wrestling with last meeting and this, relating to the number of people that will utilize the building, the parking that's available in the neighborhood so that you won't have an adverse impact on traffic, those are all reasonably related to the request. Finally, I would just remind you that in my experience, the Board of Zoning Appeals has never had a request for a use variance that was this broad. That is, it's office use. And that is a very broad request, and it's hard to put any sort of restrictions on it because an argument could be made that almost anything is an office use. And therefore, it stands to reason that this body might want to put some limitations on such a broad request in the granting of that, if that's what you do. I hope we're on the same page.
That helps.
Yeah, and they've already started listing some of the restrictions. So we may choose to add some to what the term office actually means in this scenario. So I don't know if you should you be sharing your recommendations now with him, just so that he's not wasting time on the planning stages doing something that, can we give him some advanced?
I've always left that to the enforcement officer or the liaison officer, so I would say that it's Sylvia's call.
Okay.
I don't have a problem. I can read our recommendations. Would you like to know what we've recommended?
Sure.
The following department recommends for the request use variance docket number B-100-23, subjected to the following conditions. 1, the approved use is limited to a total of 5 private business office for individual and or business entities, each of which may not have no more than 2 staff on site at a time. Number 2, approved use shall include only permitted use listed in section 07.02 or 808.02 of the Michigan City Zoning Ordinance under the category of office, general and professional with accessory research and testing. There should be no special exemption use. There should be no adult regulated use. Number 3, sales of services is permitted, but the sales of goods is not. There shall be no retail use permitted on the property. Number 4, excessive noise, odor, and noxious emissions are prohibited. Number 5, the provisions set out in paragraph 1 to 4 include shall only to the owner, inclusive shall only to the owner, the petitioner, and any successor owner or successor user, and shall be made a part of any oral or written lease for any office or part of the property.
May I add something?
Yes.
Just as Mr. Zimmer, you pointed out that this body has the power to add or subtract from any sort of a list. Your staff certainly has that same right in reporting to you at the next meeting.
Thank you. Do we need to have public comment on this now? Okay,
But you do need a motion.
okay. All right, so with all that said, then, is there a motion then to grant the continuance until next month?
A motion for continuance to our next meeting.
Is there a second?
Does anybody have the date of our next meeting?
It's May 9th.
Of May 9th.
I call for the vote. I call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
So I think the bottom line here is you need to demonstrate to us with your architect's drawings what you think is an ideal situation, taking parking into account and layout within the house for the offices.
Yes,
We'll
yeah,
see what
and
happens.
that's what we will be, that's what we are working towards. And he just felt that he couldn't get that accurately depicted in
Sure.
time, so,
Okay, thanks. Then we'll see you next month.
alrighty, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next item on the agenda is old business or new business.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
I have some old business I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
In the preparation of the decision and findings of fact for petition B-103-22, wherein the petitioner was Kenneth Smith, who appeared before this body. The owner was Urban Sites of Chicago LLC, and the request was for a special exception use for property at 1603 Franklin Street. I made a mistake, and in paragraph 5 said that the petitioner and owner requested a special exception use to allow for the operation of a used car establishment. That was a typographical error, my error. It should read that the petitioner and owner requested a special exception use to allow for the operation of a tattoo establishment. And I would request that you have a motion to approve that change in our official decision and findings of fact, and have your officers sign a corrected copy.
Very well. Let's do that. Could somebody make that motion, please?
Yes, I make a motion that we make a change on the approval and findings for Kenneth Smith B-103-22. That changes the variance from a car to a tattoo establishment, from a used car lot to a tattoo establishment.
Very good. We have the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thanks for catching that, Mr. Hale, and bringing it to our attention. Okay. Any new business then?
Yep. We just need a signature on this one, so there's no change. Now we'll pass them around.
Is there no new business?
Excuse me, Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Under the old business, there was 2 finding effects or findings and orders.
Yes, the other one's okay.
The other one's okay. Okay.
Yeah, we just need a signature on that one. It didn't have any change. We just need a signature. There's no new or old business.
So then next item would be public comment. Does anybody have any public comment related to Board of Zoning Appeals petitions?
You can step up.
Step up and state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Cook, 700 Pine Street, Michigan City. I'd like to respectfully ask that next month, the petitioner provide a complete request regarding this matter so that we don't have to drag this on any further than necessary. I think that's a reasonable request. If you all think it's a reasonable request, we'd like to ask for that. The other thing is the matter of parking. If there are 5 units, before I thought we talked about 3 office workers total, and now it's 2 per unit. So I wanted to ask about that.
Initially, it was 5 per office. 3 per office, excuse me.
Okay.
And then we adjusted it based upon what can fit in the structure. So now it's a lower number, but it's a lower number of individuals in one unit. So it's per unit, not the entire structure.
Okay. The only other thing is the matter of parking. I tried to mention last time that lot at 8th and Pine was not a city lot. But I would also, if they are going to identify other parking areas, that they specify what the areas are and what arrangements they have made under contract to have additional lots.
Those are good points. Thanks. And the petitioner is here, so I'm sure he heard you.
Hi, Martha Moss, 502 East 9th Street. I have a couple of concerns about this whole deal. And one of them is that everybody knows in Michigan City, we have a shortage of rental properties for residential rental properties, not businesses, because I can tell you, Bob Lake has some vacancies. My family has vacancies in their rental properties. So there's business rental properties available. So it's not a shortage of that, but there is a shortage of residential. The other thing is that Elston Grove has slowly been gnawed and chipped away at. This residential neighborhood that's Elston Grove. It's a historic neighborhood. So I hope he understands also that this is a historic neighborhood. It doesn't matter if it's a business or what, they comply to the same rules the rest of us do. But I am concerned that Elston Grove is slowly being chipped away because there's homes that are deteriorating. And if there was a way that, I can tell you, there's people in the public that would be willing to buy these homes. And for this man to say, I wasn't here before, but I heard that, he can't make money if he doesn't have so many offices in this building. Well, the majority of us, we buy rental properties, we fix them up very nicely for people to live in. We may not make a lot of money, but we're providing living space for people living in Michigan City. So my husband and I have a vacant lot in Michigan City on 8th Street, but it's impossible to develop because it would cost $200,000 or $300,000 at least to build a house there that would comply with the regulations of the historic neighborhood. So I am asking you, I don't even want it to become any kind of offices. I want it to be residential because we're just, like I said, we're slowly chipping away at the neighborhood and we're losing residential buildings and we're losing the neighborhood, the way the neighborhood should be, like an old historic neighborhood. So I I'm asking, and I also, even though, and the parking lot, the one parking lot that he's talking about is a block away. I dare say that I doubt whether many of the people that work in that office are going to be willing. I mean, people just don't like to walk. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but I doubt, I'm skeptical whether they're going to walk a block to their office to work. So just my feeling.
Okay, good points. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Janet Troyer Smith. I'm a homeowner. I live at 408 East 8th Street. I'm the former owner and operator of the historic Wheelock 1866 bed and breakfast. I'm in the cottage now, right next door. I'm concerned, as I was at your last meeting. First of all, about the parking. I've purposely been looking at that area since the last meeting. And every time I have driven down there, there's very little parking. The apartment across the street has 4 lovely residential units. They're filled with 4 cars or more. The one, what used to be the Transky office, I believe, for a law office, it now is a home that's being rented. And there's a couple more parking spots there that are needed. And then as we even further east, we're within the same block. We have another beautiful light brick colored building, which is a historic building owned by a former resident in the area who subsequently passed. But the man has kept it, and it is a 4 rental building. 4 units are in that building. So there's 4 more cars. And then as you go further, there are 2, 3 private homes. So that's on the south side. On the north side is this large building that he's talking about that he wants on Pine and that street, 9th Street. Okay. And then the next house is a residential to that, a small residential. And then there is one lot. I don't know who owns the lot. It's a private lot. It's not made into a parking lot. So I don't know if you've even investigated that particular situation. But then there are some more residences beyond that. So I see the parking as a very difficult issue for the people that are already living in that area. And I think it's terrible for a business to be changed from residential to slightly business and bring all these cars in when these people have been living there, paying their rent, the owner's paying the taxes, and keeping the buildings in very nice condition. I just would hate to destroy that. And I think that that particular block is going to be destroyed by someone coming in and taking a historic home, which was lovely in its day and can be turned back that way. It is on the historic roll. Okay. And I would just hate to see that taken up by 6, 12 cars, whatever may become necessary for the people that are going to be living in the, I believe, the carriage house, if we are thinking about a resident. And there's parking under that for 2 people, maybe, or 3 cars. But then your other office with 5 offices in it is going to require 5 cars or maybe even 10. You're going to have people coming and going, customers, whatever. So that's a main concern. Second main concern is, as I asked last time, and I've not received clarification on what type of counseling or he's going to do in this incubator counseling business with 5 units or whatever that they're going to give them to work with. But it's directly across from a school. Directly across Pine Street from a school. And I have a concern about the type of counseling you're going to be doing and what kind of people are going to be coming in as needing that particular service. If it's someone who's had alcohol abuse or harm to children, they're not allowed in that area. And that area is direct. I mean, there's children there every day at school. So this is a valid concern also of another thing in the neighborhood that, do we have to watch it? Do we have to get these postcards saying there's this person living there or this person visiting there? You know, guard your children, guard your street, guard everything because he was an ex-person from jail. It's just a very big concern for those of us that live in Elston Grove. And if it's drug counseling or anything like that, will there be more drugs on the road? All of these things concern me. And your parking is a big problem. So
Great.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Points well-
your time and patience.
Yep. Points well taken. Thank you.
And just to ease your concern, the school is closed.
No, it's not.
It's in the process of, it's closing.
We represent St. Paul Lutheran Church and School, the three of us. The school will be closed next fall. But we have not made, or the congregation has not voted on the use of that building.
Okay, let's not have a conversation about that right now. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, public comment period is closed. There is no other comments from the commissioners, then we are adjourned until May 9th. Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here this evening.